Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the Candid Conversations pregame show. I'm here with my incredible co-host, Brenda Hetrick. Great to see you, Brenda.
Great to see you, Mark. I think we can play this game with our listeners or our viewers, and that is we started together in the office, social distance. Then we were apart. Then you had a vacation in Mexico. Then we were back in the office again, social distancing, and now we're back in our respective houses. And but you can't see, Pittsburgh, cold. 8 inches of snow, I think more snow coming. And Mark, what is it like where you are?
Well, you can see that we do have some greenery outside, and I am wearing a blazer. As you know, Pretty much I'm normally in a polo because I think it's in the low 80s. So, and here in southern Florida, which I believe is maybe the only warm spot in the entire country. And in fact, I know we were talking to some of our clients today who were in Texas, and it really incredibly tough out there. I mean, everybody's lost electricity. And I do think that's interesting because, in where you are in Western Pennsylvania, where if it wasn't for the pandemic, I would be there now working in the Matrix studios. When we have snow, ice, et cetera, I mean, can you lose power? Sure, it has happened, but it's very rare. So I always think that's interesting. In these warmer places, they get one storm and it's, everything's out. So good.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I talked about this yesterday with my husband, or one of the days we did get a little ice, but we were seeing the power out in Texas and some of the, I think Arkansas, it's crazy. And it's very cold also. In addition to no power, it's cold, which is, I think, two unusual things. But we said the same thing. Like, we just don't even certainly we can lose our power, but we don't consider that that's an option in the winter. Like, we just think it's cold, right? We don't necessarily worry about losing our power, but
I view it more in the summer. Horrible.
Yeah, right. So it's another fun day today for, I don't know that you have to be Catholic, but tomorrow starts Lent, which means today is Fat Tuesday and Mardi Gras. And what a difference a year makes in Mardi Gras, right? I mean, it's now a Yardi Gras is what I understand. And
I don't know what that is.
Not well, what I think it is means that no one is walking down Bourbon Street, today with the numbers, which, but I think the last time we talked, when vaccine was coming, we certainly are having more and more folks vaccinated. So I hope, I'm still hearing potentially June, most likely September, where we get the majority of Americans vaccinated and we can get back to what we consider normal and whatever that's going to be. But certainly in-person events and the ability to work in the same room and go visit clients, go visit prospects and connect with people. How do you think, Mark, now that it's been almost a year, how do you think we've done, from Matrix's perspective, as far as the remote workplace, given that we weren't a consistent, we certainly have people working remote, but how do you think Matrix has done with it, and maybe extrapolate that to the media industry? Like, how do you think the industry as a whole has fared? Not so much due to pandemic, but just the working remote.
Sure. So before we jump, I do have a question for you. Sure. So I agree with you. I think by September-ish, people will be vaccinated, we'll be starting to have in-person events, which means in January of 2022, our summit will be back live. And if you have enjoyed this is a little commercial break. Everybody here can appreciate advertising. So I think they call this product placement. I don't know. But it's a direct sale. If you've enjoyed the Candid Conversations, this is very much in the vein of how we have different sessions at our summit. So if you've enjoyed it, is registration up yet?
Registration has been fantastic, and every event we started last September, every
No, I
topic has
mean
been
for the
tremendous.
2022 event.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant
For
for
our
today's
summit.
event, because today's event is going to be great.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for the summit, no, I think we have a save the date out there. I don't think we're
Okay.
actually taking registrations yet, but we do have a save the date. Sure.
I got it. So look for it though, everybody.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
for it on
Back
our
in my
website, www.matrixformedia.com. So now to answer your
exactly.
question. So for Matrix, yes, I think we have done a very good job. I will say, and I've been talking to other company people at other companies, and really kind of the same that to some extent, some of the internal communication probably isn't as aggressive as it was in the beginning. And, certainly with time, and I do know, listen, statistics show you that remote companies in the end have the worst level of employee engagement. And so I think we've done a great job, but I think over time, yeah, people are looking for some connections. I mean, Kathy, who's going to be here on the panel, had mentioned that specifically, like she misses seeing the team. Not, I think people enjoy some of the freedom. You know that we will be going to a 2 week a month in the office, and then the other times people can choose. Not everybody likes working from home, so they're welcome to come in. But for those of us that want to stay at home or do that, it's going to be great. And for me, I'm excited because, as you know, we also have a Mexico City office, and by doing that gives me a chance to spend, good quality 1 or 2 months down there. So yeah, I think it's been good. You have all this talk about how all these companies aren't going to do it, and maybe I think it's time. I haven't really looked around, but look at investing in some office suites, because I'm thinking they're probably in pretty bad shape, because everybody's thinking, oh, no one's going back to the office. And I'm not a believer in that. I think, I think maybe full-time is going to be there. Some places, yes, but I do think a lot of people are going to realize there is value in working together and cooperation. And so we're going to do that 2 weeks a month, which means we need office space, all those kind of things. And I'm recognizing, just if people are curious, I do have a lamp back here and has a black top. So oftentimes it's looking like I've got a Mary Tyler Moore bump. It's really just the lamp. It's not my hair sticking up. I just want to clarify that. I do. I'm going to say, was curious on your take, and I know we have about a minute and a half left here. I was reading and I found it really interesting. I don't know if you've seen this. We have all this talk in this country about Google and Facebook. There's 60% of all advertising getting wiped, or digital getting wiped by these two firms, et cetera. In Australia, there's talk that they are going to start forcing these companies, well, mainly Google, to pay news organizations if you search something and the news comes up, et cetera, so that Google will need to start paying. And so Google's already actively making deals with those news. Very interesting. Kind of curious what your thought is, if you think something like that could come.
Well, I think it's very interesting and strategic and smart, innovative, right, and good for Australia. What do I think here in this country? I don't know, right? We have this. I certainly think the fangs, if you will, have received an abundance of not having restrictions that traditional media companies have. And I think that they've taken great advantage of that. How it will play in this country, I'm not sure, but I think it's actually worth the effort of going through the process, right? Because I think that why not? If you're benefiting from, a me Googling and asking what the local weather is. And, I'll give a plug for our client Hearst here in Western Pennsylvania. Their WTAE station is my result. And I get the weather from WTAE. In essence, why shouldn't Google have to pay a surcharge to WTAE for that? I mean, and let's just be clear, what what news is Google generating, right? I mean, it is an aggregation of somebody else's hard work potentially. So I think it's very interesting. Would love to see that at least have a conversation in this country for sure.
So we are at time. I will say, when you said it, I was thinking it's just like retrans fees. So we've got to go. Thank you for joining us in the pregame show. We're sorry we're a minute late here. Deanna, go ahead and roll the clip.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. And maybe it's my nervousness because I'm incredibly excited about today's Candid conversation. We have Kathy Doyle from MAGNA Global and Jennifer Hungerbuhler from dentsu. And I think by our attendance numbers, who they are and what they represent to our industry goes without saying, although I will let them dig a little deeper or tell us a little bit more about themselves and the roles that they have in their organizations. But we have a tremendous number of attendees today. Again, referencing back to, I think, the importance of both Kathy and Jennifer's positions with their respective agencies for the local seller, the local broadcasting company. And of course, we have, networks represented and national sellers, et cetera. So I'm very excited to have Kathy and Jennifer with me today. So welcome, everyone, and welcome, Kathy and Jennifer. Before to get started and just set the table, I'm going to start with Kathy. If you could just give us a little bit of your background about, your current role and, what you're doing with MAGNA, and then I'll let Jennifer do the same thing, and then we'll dive into some questions. If you could also, just as you're explaining, a little bit about your current role, just also potentially give a quick blurb about how you see the local landscape as well.
Sure. Thank you, Brenda, for having us, and thanks to Matrix for hosting this great event. I am Kathy Doyle from MAGNA Global. I oversee all local investment for media brands, which is part of IPG. I grew up in the local world. I love it. I've done it every day of my career, and I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. We have about 40 to 50 clients that activate locally across 210 markets. And I have a phenomenal team, particularly the teams at an initiative that are out there doing great work for our clients every single day. Obviously, I have a passion for all things local. I believe in it. I think it is a critical and viable option for our clients. And we've worked really hard to keep it that way and evolve and change what we can to make sure local always stays as a great option for our clients.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to be with my good friend Kathy Doyle as well. So like Kathy, I've spent my entire career in local media from day one as an intern all the way through. I'm now 18 years with dentsu, and I wouldn't change a day of it. I love it. I serve as the investment director for all of the dentsu agencies. So you might be familiar with Cara or iProspect, 360i, Visium, dentsu-X. We've really grown over the last couple of years. It's been very, very exciting to see us expand our local offering across all of these different fantastic brands. We have investment oversight over everything from linear television to cable to radio to network radio to digital audio to OTT, CTV, advanced TV, addressable TV. As the consumer's consumption habits are changing, so is our expertise in the channels that we're having to manage and how we're investing our clients' money. So, it's so exciting, the advancements and the things that are happening in the local space. Like, I couldn't be more excited to be a part of this right now because, we're really in charge and building our own future. So it's really exciting. And like Kathy, I just love it. Have a fantastic group of individuals that work for us, amazing team members that are like fully vested in local. So super excited to be here today. So thank you.
So it's great, and thank you, Jennifer, as you were giving your background and your time, and Kathy too. So I was just thinking, what changes, right, since when you started, a few years ago. I don't want to say 18, but years ago of the products or the product suite that we now can offer, your clients. So how exciting that is. Let's start diving right into some questions, and we might all be a little tired of talking about the pandemic of 2020 and just how 2020, but we could still see enough of 2020 that I think one question around 2020 is warranted. And I would just ask both of you, and Jennifer, you can start. What was the overall impact of 2020, in your perspective, from your point of view at dentsu, and potentially both of you then drill down into the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I just think that there has got to have been some changes or some recognition of DEI from the previous year, or from 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. So from just a transaction perspective, I mean, certainly we saw some of our investments slow down. We saw some of our clients, due to, their business needs, weren't actually able to serve the public, so they had to go dark, or they started changing their investment strategies. So from that perspective, it was different. We also had to look to how we were organizing ourselves in our organization and how we were working, because we certainly, it was a little bit of a leaner time for us as well. But I think, to your point, one of the biggest things that came out of what happened through the entire last year has been around diversity and inclusion. And like a lot of the companies around the United States, we really needed to look inward, and we had to sort of recommit ourselves to this space where we just frankly hadn't been doing enough. And so I feel like, just speaking for our agency in particular, I feel like we've made a lot of great improvements. So, for example, we have improved our representation of management, both at the senior level, at the executive level of our holding companies, as well as across our agency brands. We've really created an area where we're having a lot more open dialogues between our management and our employee teams. And this has really opened up a lot of people's eyes. There's been a lot of levels of transparency. And the result of that is we've done a lot of education and a lot of trainings for our teams, whether it's in a town hall or if it's in a small group meeting. It's also led to increased training opportunities, awareness, engagement around DEI. And then lastly, it's probably also had an impact on the way that we deal with our clients. So, it's more about, now at our briefing process, we're looking at the audiences upfront instead of just trying to fit in an audience at the back end. We have created investment frameworks that we are working not only as a company, but trying to educate our clients to make sure that they're investing in the right properties. Holding tons of vendor meetings where we are bringing in vendors every week so that they can get exposure to our investment teams, to our client teams, and then helping to educate our clients around just what does their diversity framework look like, what do their investment strategies look like. So I feel like it's been a very top to bottom approach across the entire board.
That's great to hear. Kathy, how about you?
Yeah, I would say, we're pretty aligned with the things Jennifer went through, but I would say, media brands, as challenging as 2020 was, I feel like we as an organization embraced the climate and looked at it as an opportunity to do better moving forward. I don't think anybody could argue as an industry. There's nothing to be proud of from this standpoint historically. Jen and I have both been in the business a long time, and there's some things that happened that absolutely should have never happened and never been done the way they were done. I do think coming off of this, I honestly believe we're at the point now where we will see long and lasting change coming off of this. How we approach bias in our business from both a staffing and a partner and a client standpoint, and from a data standpoint, and from an overall opportunity standpoint. there's just no question that we all can be doing better. We should be doing better. And I think we're doing everything we can be now to get to that better place. It just requires all of us to look at every single thing we do through that lens. And I would say as media brands, we have a lot underway. Stay tuned for more information coming soon, but we are, we're doing some great and good things in this space for sure. So
I think that's great. Well, I know that's great to hear. And I love that the feeling from both of you is that, now's the time that we are actually going to, it's not just going to be talk, it's going to be changes, it's going to be commitment, and you will see real change, which I think even given ownership of, media companies, which would be our clients, the Matrix clients, there are minorities, there are women in powerful roles, minorities in powerful roles, not enough. But I think that, it's on both sides of the equation as well. And that is, we just need to be doing more to make sure that there is inclusion and diversity in the whole process of, buying and selling inventory, if you will, in the media space. So I think that's great to hear. What do you feel like has happened? How has the business of local media changed for you over the last few years? And you sort of touched upon a little of it, Jennifer, in your introduction, from linear to digital to CTV to OTT, et cetera. So what has been some of the biggest changes that you've seen over the past couple years, and where do you think the biggest impact will be in 2021 and potentially 2022? I've been in the industry a while, and I know we talk about things changing and things will happen in a year, but they haven't happened yet. So I don't want to say just this year. So feel free to take a year to 2 years to tell us what you think the biggest impacts will be in the business of local media. Kathy, you can start.
Sure, I'd be happy to go first. I think, obviously the global pandemic aside, we're pretty much where we anticipated we would be, at least as an organization within this local industry, probably about 5 years ago. Margins are definitely tightening up. Local is under more scrutiny than ever. And this has really driven the need for us to look and find the efficiencies, look where we can make reductions that don't negatively impact the offering for the client and the product in the end for the client. Local historically has had extremely high overhead when you think we're buying 210 markets and the national team is buying one. So it's, we saw the writing on the wall, and we as an agency did a lot to try and stay ahead of that on behalf of our clients, being the first to move to impression-based buying, advancing automation through partners like HMX, moving to a pay-for-performance model. You asked the one that I think will be most impactful this year, and I think that is the one for us anyway. And as we talk more and more on the sales side, that seems to be something that really resonates and is, when we originally came up with this idea, we tried to structure it so that it could be a win-win-win for the agencies, for the clients, and for the sell side. And I think those partners that have embraced it have seen phenomenal success and truly a win on the sales side. I know it's a win on the agency side, and our clients are getting the benefit of getting what they want when they want it. So, we've just, as I said earlier, we've worked really hard as a team, and I'm proud of my team and the partners we work with for embracing the change and not pushing back, not fighting it, just knowing we have to evolve to stay a viable option for our clients.
Yeah, I would say very similar to what Kathy said. The exact same thing is happening here. It's how do we maintain this amazing client work that we're continuing, that we want to deliver, but just do it at a lower cost. So whether that means reorganization, which of course we have done that. We've done that both at the agency level as well as at the holding company level. Consolidated services. We've certainly had to do some of that where a lot of people are now double hatting in some roles and responsibilities. Automation. It's how can we, a lot of the repetitive tasks that our team were doing, we've made a lot of investment in AI and built bots so that we now have different tools that are helping our teammates and our peers do their work, that things that would have taken them a really long time, we now press a button or it's happening overnight while we sleep. So a lot of AI is happening right now. And then automation, like Kathy, just how can we transact local media more effectively, more targetedly, better stewardship, and then all the other things that she mentioned, whether it's moving to impressions or doing pay for performance, or as we get into attribution, all of that is changing how we do business, and we are going to continue to evolve if we want to keep our business future-proofed. We have to.
So jumping in, you guys both represent the buy side, and you both mentioned the sell side and trying to work. And full disclosure, Matrix sits in the sales side. We're a company that provides a tool for media sellers. What do you feel there's been enough to engage the sales side, to bring everybody to the table? I listened to a panel a couple weeks ago from TV News Check, and the people representing, the media companies, the sales side, said, if you're talking about automation in this workflow, there really hasn't been automation, right? This is from the seller's perspective. There may be some functions that have been automated, but not an automated process from end to end. And so from your perspective, what are you doing to engage the sales side, or how do you think that needs to happen to get a truly, automated end-to-end process?
I could start. From a sales perspective, they do have a seat at the table. They're part of the TIP consortium. So, they have say, and they are really working very hard to build what are the standards that are going to help with improved stewardship and operational efficiencies, because I do feel for them, because, for us, we've certainly benefited from the buy side, and we actually have seen those improvements in automation that have shaved hundreds and hundreds of hours off of what happens on the buy side. Problem is, from the sales side, is that every agency could potentially be using a different platform. So they have a lot of different players and a lot of different agencies that they have to serve. So it is more challenging for them. So being a part of TIP and having their say to build the standards so that they can have those API connections to all the different agencies and help build those business rules are going to be critical for their success, because obviously they cannot make an investment in every single platform. It's just not going to be, fiscally responsible for them. So, I don't know if it's happening as fast on their side as they would like, but I can say, at least for us, we certainly haven't picked our foot off the pedal, and we continue to drive it forward, looking for that end-to-end solution for our side, because we absolutely need to have that in order to maintain function.
Yeah, to pile on to what Jen said, I think that the TIP initiative is a very, very important part of that conversation, and keeping stations included in all of the development on this front. The other thing I would say is, while we have made progress on the buy side, we're not done. We're not there yet with end-to-end for local, but I do think we're dangerously close. And once we hit that point, I do think the sell side will feel it, whether or not they, partner with our partner or with somebody else's. I do think there is automation and ease of communication and business that will come with that to the sales side. So, but I totally agree with Jen, and any of the sales partners that I've talked to about this, I feel the pain. It's much easier for us as an agency to pick one partner and go with it than for you to have to figure out how to work with multiple partners. But I do think the TIP initiative is a very important part of that puzzle.
So Jennifer mentioned business rules, and I think sometimes, in my mind, when I think about this, again, representing a technology or part of the tech stack in the workflow, sometimes I think it is a business rules, and that the whole conversation needs to be about the business rules and alignment of the business rules. Do you both agree with that, or what do you see needs to change, or do you think the business rules, the management of that from a business rules perspective of the process, do you see that is changing, or there is agreement from media companies with agencies and your clients? Do you see that the business rules changing?
I think it's absolutely both. There's huge benefit to automation, huge. But we have outdated processes and procedures that were created 70 years ago that haven't changed since. And that's if you look at the pay for performance model, that's exactly what that does, is looking at the hours we as agencies and on the sales side spend determining the UD weight, scheduling the UD weight, running the UD weight, blowing out the UD weight, booking it again. It's a ridiculous cycle that doesn't have to be that way. If people will agree to or come to some kind of a compromise where it does help both sides. And that's what we think we've done with the pay for performance model that helps. I don't have associates scheduling UD weight over and over and over, and neither does the salesperson. And the salesperson also isn't giving me weight 18 months from now that they owed me before that they could put in the open marketplace and make a higher CPM on. So it's really looking at things like that and pulling it apart and saying, if you started over today, how would this work? That's how we need to be looking at everything we do. I think automation is definitely a part of that, because to Jen's point, through AI, there's decisions that can be made that we don't have to pay people to make. We can automate that, but we don't want to lose the human touch. We don't want to lose the art of what we do, because I know Jen and I have talked about this. We both desperately believe in that, but where we can take task-oriented things out of the system, that's what we're going to do. And be it changing the rules or changing the systems, it has to be both.
Jennifer, do you have anything to add? Or?
I mean, really, Kathy said it very eloquently, and I completely agree with everything that she said. Moving forward, it is all about performance, 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 performance. The search and social side of all of the digital metrics that have come out, there isn't a single client saying, how can I have better linear performance? And the only way we're going to have better linear performance is through a lot of the technology that we're building, because it is so transactional. Again, it's very transactional. It's 210 markets across 50 clients with very lean teams. We have to automate. And so if we want to get to that level of performance and that level of outcome-based buying, we have to automate. So the business rules are going to help us do that, and they're going to be a necessary part of it. But again, to Kathy's point as well, we don't want to just automate what we were doing before. It was taking us a long time to do it. We need to be smarter, not work harder. And that is a lot of what the automation is helping us to do, to rethink things.
And I love the point. If we were starting today, what would we do? You both talked about pay for performance or performance or outcomes. And we have a group at Matrix we've put together, the Media Ad Sales Council. And we talked last week about, and not going to name any clients, but a great push to pay for performance and outcomes. And I know, Kathy, you said that you see this as like the biggest impact in the near, this year or next year. Where are you? Like, where do you think we are on pay for performance? Can we say, or when will we be able to say, you spent $400,000 and you moved $400,000 in product? Like, how close are we to that? I mean, my very easy one-to-one relationship. Are we close? Is it going to be a pull to get everybody on board to that kind of metric, or what's the industry? What are you feeling with performance as being, pay for performance?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot more to it that we haven't cracked. And honestly, I generally try to be an optimist, but given how long it's taken the industry to move to impressions, I'm becoming more and more pessimistic about things like this. But I would say, for us as an agency, I think this year we're somewhere about 25 to 30% right now operating through pay for performance. The goal is to be more than half by the end of the year. And so we'll see where that goes. But the other pieces that come with it, the alignment on currency, and when we talked about automation, the biggest thing we get from that is being able to apply data at a local level so that we can move to that audience-based buying. but aligning on currency and things like that are still very uphill work we have to do. So maybe we'll be, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years. I don't know, but all I know is every year we'll be further ahead than we were the year before. That's how, that's my goal. And I think there's so many things we don't necessarily control in this space, and just trying to move it forward, baby step. People are probably sick of hearing me say it, but I say like a move to audience-informed buying is a logical next step that gets us to audience-based buying, because cracking the code on currency is a big nut to crack. And I think there's a lot of work we can do before we get there, but we have to keep progressing on that front.
I have a question on common currency too. So I'll ask Jennifer, and Kathy's already said it's a big nut to crack. What is your take on getting to a common currency in addition to the outcomes-based performance?
Well, like Kathy said, it's just, I'm still surprised that not everybody has moved to impressions as of yet, especially with like the broadband homes coming out and the way that impressions are going to help us all. I just, maybe that's going to be something that's going to help move things a little bit quicker. I know NBC just came out with a statement the other day about going to impression-based selling. Like, these are the things that have to keep coming out in order for us to get to that common currency. But I also think that there's an element of a common currency with the measurement, but there's also the different KPIs that our clients have. Are we looking at website traffic? Are we looking at store foot traffic? Are we looking at just impression traffic? Like, what are our KPIs? What are the different vendors that we are going to be measuring against? And again, local is so complicated because we have 210 markets with 500 different ownership groups, and some support Alfonso, some support TV Squared. And, we're all over the place with, ACR and how many smart TVs are in a person's home and who can measure this and who can measure that. It is a really complicated landscape out there to navigate on how we're going to deliver those KPIs. So it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be fast. And I know I have been meeting with a lot of ownership groups trying to figure this out. And I like what she said, to crack the nut. And it's hard because we take like one step forward and then we take 2 steps backwards because we're like, oh, how do we get past this? And how do we overcome that? Or how do we get access to this data? Or how much money is it going to cost us to be able to do this? And then how do you find the right measurement? So it's a lot of trial and error right now, and just, testing, a lot of crawling before we're walking, and really just looking at all the players that are in the space to help us put it all together.
So I want to keep going, but we do have a question, and it from the audience. And what do you feel is the best way to evaluate paid performance for traditional media? Since it does tie into what our conversation, I thought I'd go ahead and ask it now.
Well, it's based on the amount of impressions. So if the station is going to guarantee a certain amount of impressions, then they have to deliver that certain amount of impressions. And if they don't, then it's very simple. They just give you cash back. And then the client can take that cash back and they can either reinvest it or take the money back in-house.
It eliminates any other process any other steps in the process. I like it. Kathy, for you, same.
Yeah, I would just add, if you haven't done a time spent survey lately of your team, maybe do that before you sign up for pay for performance, or look to do one quickly, because you will see a huge benefit in the amount of time your people on the sales side are spending on under delivery weight and things like that. And the partners we've worked with, some of them have looked at it in a way where they actually monetize what they would have had to give us future state that they've been able to put in the open market, and are seeing huge lift in revenue opportunities because they can sell it. They don't have to give it away down the road. So those are 2 things I would just suggest from the sales side to keep an eye toward if you're moving forward with pay for performance.
Got it. And sticking in the same vein, and both of you've touched upon it, and that is, the common currency, impression-based measurement campaign reporting, attribution. So when you look at this whole puzzle, if you were putting it together, if I said to you, you guys can fix this problem, what would be your first, your first three actions to try to get this, puzzle put together?
Well, I don't know about top three. I feel like top one has to be currency. I just feel like we have to come to agreement on that. And to Jennifer's point, that is absolutely going to be the most challenging thing we have to do. I think because every holding company has their own supply of data. We have Axiom. We spent a lot of money on Axiom. We want to use Axiom. Our clients want us to use Axiom. But figuring out how we can use that and have sell side still aligned to those deliverables is the tricky part of it all, I think. And I think to Jennifer's point, it is going to be some trial and error. We're just going to have to jump in and start figuring out how to start testing it, see what works. And again, we want to set it up so that it's a benefit to the stations and to the clients and to the agency. We just have to get going on it, I would say. That to me is by far the biggest thing. I think attribution comes hand in hand with that. But if you can't land the currency, it's really hard to bring the attribution to the party. So I would say those would be my top two. I don't even know three. I don't know three.
Yeah.
Well, baby steps, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
maybe, but massive steps, right?
Massive,
Jennifer?
Yeah.
Yep. I totally agree. I couldn't even add to that. I totally agree.
We do have another quick question, and I just want to get these in because I think they're good questions. For radio specifically, do you see a move on the buy side to targeting impressions and pay for performance? Do you see that same for radio?
Yeah, we are doing this in the radio space. I mean, maybe a little to a slightly lesser extent than we are with TV, but we are doing it. The other thing I would say to those radio partners on this call, the work that's being done as far as zone casting and being able to send different messages to different zones within your broadcast area. Some ownership groups are embracing it, some are pushing back on it. I would say it's very short-sighted to be pushing back on that right now. We want it, our clients want it. I think to Jen's point, being more targeted becomes more important every single day. By definition, broadcast has a little, unless you're trying for broad reach, it's a little chink in the armor. And if there's an opportunity to tweak that and provide an alternative where we can geo-target, I think that's really important for an important option for our clients to have. So that's one thing I would say to the radio providers out there. Audience-based, we're working on it. I would say it's a little further down the to-do list than it is with television, but it's not off the list. It's definitely, and we have more and more clients ask us all the time about it. So it's definitely on our radar.
Yeah, well, we're already transacting off of impressions for radio. I totally agree with Kathy on the pay for performance. Fully support the geocasting and the zone casting. I think that is a terrific revenue generator for radio stations because now it's going to make them, they're the only channel that's left right now that is strictly linear in that regard. But now they could play more in the digital space because they could be so much more targeted instead of just this broad reach medium. So I think that there is a lot of potential. And, we have a lot of clients that want to get very, very granular, and to be able to bring that to the table would be amazing.
We're getting great questions, and I have I have two I don't want to leave, but I have had a few on the OTT space. And so and it's been around, what are your agency's outlooks for the local ATT marketplace through 2021? And I've had a couple on that, and what do you look for in OTT vendors? So I don't know if you were able to answer, that those two questions, and let's give this a shot, and then I'm going to I want to ask about Nielsen because we couldn't do this without the Nielsen question, and so let's do a quick answer on OTT.
I mean, I'll just say OTT is absolutely growing. I mean, you can tell through the pandemic that you saw the streaming consumption habits go up. And so we are definitely seeing more dollars move into that space. So for us, it's an important part of our media plans. We try to look at video holistically. So when we're building out the plan, all of the money is put in one pool, and we really look at what are the individual consumption habits of the individual market. It helps drive where the investment goes, of whether it's going to be linear or if it's going to be OTT. There's certainly some stronger vendors on the OTT side that are emerging. We're investing a lot with them. What were the other questions? There were so many, I wasn't sure I captured them all.
What is those OTT, and what do you look for in your vendors? Which I do think you answered. And what was your outlook for OTT? So what do you look for in your OTT vendors, and what is your outlook for OTT in 2021?
I mean, right now I feel like Roku and Hulu do a really good job in the local space. I mean, we have to be very careful around fraud and brand safety. So having like good data that's very transparent, where we can really see how substantive it is really important to us, and making sure we have that brand safety. Measurement, of course, is something that we also think is very important. We don't necessarily, when we go in and we buy, we are tracking it ourselves, not necessarily allowing the vendors to do the reporting for us. We actually want to see the true metrics. We want to have understanding of those metrics. So that is something, those are two things just off the top of my head that are important.
Kathy?
Yeah. I would just echo the brand safety, of course, is one of the most important things. And I think OTT will be up slightly. I think for linear core, we're projecting flat at best this year, but OTT will be up. I think, as Jen said, we have more options with more scale, and there's more interest from both the client side and obviously viewership. So I think it should be a decent year for a local OTT.
Which is great for our clients to hear. Of course, back to currency, and we can't talk about common currency or measurement without discussing Nielsen's statement that due to COVID, their ratings were not accredited. And of course, even after the Super Bowl, there were some things going on. What is your feeling on this, on Nielsen's statement or Nielsen's current state?
My 2 cents is I think Nielsen's been very communicative about the challenges they're facing, why they're facing them. We all know what's going on in the world, and what they're trying to do to rectify those issues as best we can. And, let's be honest, there is no other accredited choice. So for now, we're trusting that Nielsen's working to do what they need to do to earn back or get closer back to accreditation. Obviously, keeping a close eye on everything and staying in good communication, but that's our take on it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them to continue to work on the nano and to try to find remote solutions to get into people's houses so that they can improve it because they do want to get to that single panel measurement, which is something that we do ultimately need. And, just like us in automation, it just takes some time, and they had to move a lot faster than they had expected to. And I feel like, they are being transparent. They're the ones that made the statement that they wanted to pull out for 6 months. So, they are trying to be preemptive and very communicative, but, the sooner they can get it done, the better for us.
We hear, of course, a lot on the Nielsen, but we have a couple minutes left, or actually 1 minute, and we have a lot of questions, but I have asked a lot of the questions. And again, this is just a testament to our guests, Kathy and Jennifer, and our attendees. And I'm sure we could probably talk to you for hours, but my last question, or last, statement I'd like you guys to expound upon. And that is just what are your predictions for 2021 ad spend, properties, traditional, linear, OTT, digital? You have sort of touched upon it, but as we're wrapping up, what do you see 2021? How do you see it playing out?
I mean, kind of Kathy touched on this earlier. For us, we're looking at it more of a flat spend for linear television. I definitely do not think this year we're going to be rebounding to where we were pre-corona. It's probably going to be next year before we see that rebound. I mean, it's certainly been interesting. We have some categories that have exploded, like online gambling, the CPG, grocery. So spending is up there, but then we have others like casual dining where spending and travel and tourism are still significantly down. So, I mean, we're looking more at a flat year for us, I would say.
Yeah, I would say for linear, flat core minus political, flat is slightly optimistic, even maybe. A lot depends on how things go with vaccinations and how we get through the rest of the year. And I do think the online gambling is a very interesting category and something I've need a frequency cap on, but but I think, you know, radio is I think that radio groups are working hard to make sure they're correcting the misperception about how much listenership has dropped. So I will say they're doing that right. And we've had some interesting conversations with radio partners. So hopefully that will be close to flat, if not maybe a slight tick up from last year. Hopefully, we'll see.
Well, I thank you both for your insight and your time today. It's been incredibly valuable. As I said now 3 times, this will be my 3rd time, you know, lots of attendees and lots of good questions. We couldn't get to them all. But I do appreciate Kathy and Jennifer's time today, their insight into the industry, and I appreciate everyone who was able to join us today. So thank you both once again, and have a great day. Stay warm.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.